We have an exclusive for you today. You're hearing it on Chippy for the first time. With me today are two very well-known figures from the Christian community who are very popular on social media and also known for their tireless work and advocacy against the absurdities, duplicity, and iniquities of the Christian faith. Jerome Antonji and Esther Dhanraj. Let me give you some context. Ashwini Upadhyay, a lawyer, has filed a PIL in the Supreme Court seeking a ban on conversions. If this becomes a reality, one of the primary breaking forces of India, which is the evangelical Christianity or the Christian church, will have tough times ahead. Jerome G and Esther G have also filed impleading applications under this PIL that basically provides additional grounds to the PIL already filed and also pledges their support to Ashwini G's initiative, which is laudatory in every sense of the word. Jerome Ji and Esther Ji, namaste and welcome
Namaste,
to our
Pujita
show.
ji.
Namaste, Pujita ji.
I would like to start with Jerome Ji first, basically, you have because you are still a practicing Christian, Jerome Ji. So this might surprise some of our viewers. My question to you is, since you are a practicing Christian, you have not disavowed the faith. You go to the church. What makes you support this PIL, and why do you have anything against conversion, which is conversion is one of the primary goals of the Christian organizations, right? So shouldn't you be more sympathetic to the Christian cause?
I'm very sympathetic to the Christian cause because this nation of ours has given us the privilege to practice our religion. But the biggest concern which I foresee affecting the sovereignty and integrity of our nation is this, that this inclusive nature of our Sanatan Dharma has been mistaken as tolerance, because of which the agenda is to convert the whole nation, because that's a pious duty of every Christian. Now, we as a nation have the Sanatan Dharma has survived for thousands of years. It is only because of it's being a Sanatan Dharma. The Europeans came, the Mughals came, they were not able to destroy our nation because of the strong legacy that we had. Now, as we see, there is an aggressive move to convert India to an Abrahamic religion, whether it can be a Islamic religion or a Christian religion. And once India loses the Sanatan Dharma, then India will be another Pakistan or a North Korea or any nation which will go unruly. So, keeping this in mind is why I felt it is very important as a practicing Christian to support Ashwini Upadhyay's PIL to force the government to take cognizance of the conversion and then ask the Supreme Court to send a directive to the government to take this very seriously and at a national level debate and impose the anti-conversion law.
Right. Jerome Ji, a lot of people might say, well, what's wrong with having people convert their faith? I mean, if people want to convert out of their choice, what's wrong with it? After all, Sanatan Dharma is an all-embracing, sort of for want of a better word, religion, and it has always embraced different faiths, and it by itself there are so many strands of belief systems within the faith. So what is wrong? What would you say to such people? What would you say?
Unfortunately, this I've heard this many a times, and it is the Hindu community which has been asking me. Um, Probably, I want to ask each of them who asked this question. Had this question been told 500 years back, when 1498 when Vasco da Gama came to India and discovered India, and then the missionaries came, had anybody told it's just they've come for trade, nothing else, probably somebody would have laughed. And we know what are the repercussions for the last 500 years of European rule. They were Christians. They didn't come to convert India. They came to plunder India. And we know what happened. They were literally responsible for the genocide and the loot of our nation. So the whole Christian conversion uh, has camouflaged itself into into what you call service oriented, calling it pious religion, and then somehow it wants to convert the nation. Now, what happens is this: as we all know, the Abrahamic religion expects subjugation, undue allegiance to the religion. And we see that in the last 60, 70 years, seven states have become Christian states, and the Hindus have become minority in the last 70 years. For example, in Tamil Nadu, Kanyakumari, which is one of the temple towns, the population is 40% Christians. Now, you know what is happening in Tamil Nadu. This is going to result in rebellion. Let me quote you one simple example before you ask the next question to Esther ji. For example, the repercussions. Let me tell you what is it. I'm sure many of them will say, "What is wrong?" What happens is this. For example, if you look at Mizoram, a couple of years back, a constitutionally appointed governor, because he was a Hindu, the Mizoram, Christian people from Mizoram rejected him, saying that he's a Hindu. We do not want a Hindu governor. These are all EWS, I would say, EWS, early warning systems. This is what the government, the administration, and the people take to take cognizance and take corrective measures immediately. Otherwise, we are going to foresee the destruction of our nation.
Esther ji, the question will come to you now. So, Esther ji, my question to you is that, every day some video or the other comes to light, where there is a preacher or pastor or somebody who denigrates Bharat, spews venom or simply mongers fear, right? So recently, in fact, there's a video of late that has been circulated on WhatsApp where there's a preacher probably from Hyderabad or some part of Andhra who is actually seen in front of an audience. He's addressing an audience and he's saying, what is a cause for celebration? Why should we be wishing each other Happy New Year? Because do you know that, and he's telling the members of the audience that any one of you could be stabbed anytime or killed anytime. This is not a time for celebration. This is a very grim time because there's a genocide going on of Christians in India. Now, this is ludicrous at some level, but it is also very dangerous, right? Because this is the kind of fear that is being created among Christians by so-called leaders of the community. So I would like you to talk a little bit about this aspect of the falsehoods that is being spread, because you mentioned several examples in your application.
So, Pujita ji, Christians are masters at playing victimhood, and their long history of crying foul that actually began with the alleged persecution of the disciples, whose existence history could not even confirm beyond reasonable doubt. So, unless they exaggerated those persecution tales, Christianity would not have taken off the ground. So faith is in its place, and history has a certain place in the history of religions, right? So when you look at the history of Christianity, the truth is it is Christianity that slaughtered everyone else, every other culture, and stole their land. I don't have to give you examples. The Americas, Europe was pagan. It was taken over. The culture was annihilated, and it is Christian today. Well, most of it. It was Christian for a very long time. So there's a scholarly consensus, okay, about this persecution that has emerged, saying that Roman persecution of Christians was sporadic, and at least some Christian martyrdom, scholars say, were stories. Martyrdom stories were tall tales that the theologians have built, created. So this is a scholarly consensus. I'm not telling this. Now I'll give you some examples of who said these things. There's a New Testament scholar working at University of Notre Dame, Candida Moss. So Moss says that the ancient stories of church persecution have created a contemporary cult of bogus Christian martyrs. And Christians act as if they are members of a persecuted minority who are being thrown to the lions every single day across the globe by people who do not agree with them or who simply disagree with their philosophy, with their religious thought. So if you go all the way back to the early Christians, okay, there's this claim that Romans systematically persecuted the early Christians. That's a very big lie. You know why? Because the Romans did not care about Christians. They were such a minority, and Rome was concerned with just expanding its empire. They never bothered about this small fringe group that took birth in first century. So the Romans never, and to persecute somebody systematically, state sanctioned persecution would require a lot of resources, right? A lot of money, and Rome was not willing to spend that kind of money because this is not a big group. It was not challenging Rome's hegemony. It was so Rome was only concerned about its hegemony and spreading it. And any group that did not challenge Rome's hegemony, Rome would not spend money on persecuting them. It's time, money, manpower, everything. And Rome was not for spending all this on them. Well, they were, like I said, they were sporadic, the scholars say, and there were a handful of scattered deaths, killings, definitely, but not like a genocide. And I mean, those are very big words. And the reason Christians throw those words so frivolously is because they are the ones who are engaged in that. So, why do they do this? So, the problem with invoking persecution is, I mean, the advantage of invoking persecution is it implies your opponents are evil. And there is no common ground. And who are Christians? Very compassionate, loving, and they're so peace loving. They become bearing gifts and peace and kingdom of God and all that. So anybody who is evil, we do not have common ground with them. And through the love of Jesus, we are going to annihilate you. So no questions asked because you're persecuting us. So persecution, invoking persecution will show the opponent in evil light. So there is another example of another person called Reverend Robert Morgan. He's the author of some 365 amazing and inspiring stories about saints, martyrs, and heroes. Now he wrote about martyrs, Christian martyrs, and here's what he says. He says that some of the accounts of martyrdom were undoubtedly embellished. Many of the persecution stories were handed down in an atmosphere of confusion and pressure. So there's another guy called Gail O'Day, and he is the dean of Wake Forest University, Wake Forest University School of Divinity in North Carolina. So he says that when you actually read the Roman historical records, the Christians just weren't that important to them, what I just said. And most Christians just got along with the empire. So they did not rub the Roman Empire on the wrong side. You see what I mean? So as long as Rome did not get challenged in its ways, Rome did not bother about those groups. Rome only quelled those movements which challenged their hegemony. So Christians were not that powerful back then. So the persecutions are just tall tales of theological tall tales.
This habit of claiming persecution seems to go back a long way, right? Whenever something doesn't go their way, or they find themselves out of depth in a particular situation, or they find in a demographic situation where they're not in large numbers, they seem to say, "Hey, persecution, persecution." This seems to be a habit that seems to go back a long way.
Right.
Um,
But also, I also want to add here, just look at the world map. And if you color code the world map, and let's say we are color coding Christian regions in blue, you know how vast area on the globe it's going to be blue?
of course.
The land covering the Americas, New Zealand, Australia, North Asia, southern half of Africa, Europe, Greenland. I mean, all these are large land patches and they're all Christian. So, what persecution are they talking about?
Exactly, exactly.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.